Hello and welcome to day 23 of our walk through Romans. Thanks so much for joining us again this morning. Today, we're going to finish out chapter 9 and start chapter 10. So if you haven't been to the Lord yet in prayer, please start there. What shall we say then? The Gentiles who did not pursue righteousness have attained it, that is, a righteousness that is by faith. But that Israel, who pursued a law that would lead to righteousness, did not succeed in reaching that law. Why? Because they did not pursue it by faith, but as if it were based on works. They have stumbled over the stumbling stone, as it is written, "Behold, I am laying in Zion a stone of stumbling and a rock of offense, and whoever believes in him will not be put to shame." Brothers, my heart's desire and prayer to God for them is that they may be saved. For I bear them witness that they have a zeal for God, but not according to knowledge. For, being ignorant of the righteousness of God, and seeking to establish their own, they did not submit to God's righteousness. For Christ is the end of the law for righteousness to everyone who believes. Let's review. Paul now moves to a further discussion on the justification of Gentiles. He lays out two paths and two outcomes. Gentiles were not pursuing righteousness by the law, but their outcome was to attain righteousness through faith in Jesus, who was righteous in their place. Israel pursued a law that was a blueprint for righteousness, but they were not able to attain it. They should have pursued the law through faith in God, realizing that their works would never be enough. They were seeking to establish their own righteousness when they should have looked forward to the saving power of the Messiah who was to come, as the prophets had foretold, and realized that they could not do it in their own power. Then, when the Messiah came, he was a stumbling stone to them. Paul quotes Isaiah 28:16, where Christ is to be the cornerstone and will set everything right. This is the stone they stumbled over, when he should have been their foundation. For Israel not to be put to shame at judgment, they must put their faith in the Messiah to receive their justification before God, not a reliance in their own works in the law. So Paul concludes this chapter where he's argued that the word of God has indeed not failed. He has kept his promises. God's sovereignty has allowed him to choose both from among ethnic Jews and Gentiles to be true members of Israel through God's promise as vessels of mercy. For any of those who are part of this promise, their right standing with God will be based on the work of Christ alone, not on their own works. The law shows them God's ways, but only through faith in Jesus can the law be fulfilled. Paul makes it clear, though, that he wants his Jewish brothers to be saved. It is his personal desire in his heart, and he prays to God for it. Paul knows from experience that the Jewish people have a zeal for God. He himself was raised as a pious Jew, indeed, trained as a Pharisee under Gamaliel. He knew how serious they took their religious tradition. Unfortunately, they misunderstood what they were studying. Being sincere in your beliefs does not get you into heaven. Only following what Jesus talks about in Matthew 7:13, enter by the narrow gate. That is through Jesus himself, as Jesus also said in John 14:6, I am the way and the truth and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. But by trying to obey the law in full, thinking that they were in fact doing a good job themselves, they minimized God's righteousness, as they thought the standard he set was much lower than it truly was. They tried to do it all in their own power and did not realize that they needed to submit themselves to God. The real answer to their living out the law was to accept Christ, because he is both the goal of the law and he fulfills the law, as he says in Matthew 5:17. With this fulfillment, Christians are no longer under the law, but under Christ. Well, thanks so much. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please press the like button below, and remember to subscribe to this channel so you can get all the latest content. We'll see you tomorrow.